guys for coming back. I really appreciate it. And so we are going to start with a sit. This is how I begin your screen to practice stillness in this moment. So if everyone can just, if you've got a phone in front of you that is pinging you, can you silence it for like 2 or 3 minutes? And, if life is going on around you, that's okay too. It's a real thing. So, just try your best to stay with this moment and listen to my voice. So this guided practice is me talking you through some relaxation and a little bit of gratitude. So go ahead and just find a comfortable position, whatever that may be for you. Letting go of whatever's in your hands and maybe letting your eyes close or even gaze down if that feels more comfortable to you. And I'm going to ring my bell. And when the sound of the bell is gone, I will continue to talk. So just start by listening with your attention to the sound of the bell until you feel like it's gone. Let's begin by just honoring wherever we are in time and place. Wherever you're sitting, whatever room it's in, whatever your circumstances are, can you just name that so that you're more present in this moment? I'm here in this space. And we'll just start with a few deep breaths. So breathing all the way in, all the way in, all the way, and let it out. No one can hear you, so don't worry if you make sounds. So breathing in and breathing out. Take one more. And then come back to your natural breath. Just noticing how it feels. Is it deep and slow? Are your breaths short? Whatever it is, just see if you can gently pay attention to that. Noticing cold air going in your nostrils, a pause at the end of the in-breath, and warm or neutral air going out of your nostrils, and another pause at the out-breath. Can you pay attention to that for about 5 breaths? And then continuing to pay attention to your body. Let's relax our forehead. Can we relax our jaw? Soften our eyes. If your tongue is attached to the roof of your mouth, can you drop it down? And then bringing attention to your shoulders, just letting them drop down. Noticing the weight of the top of your arms and your elbows, your forearms, your fingers, your hands. Maybe you notice a little bit of a tingling or pulsating sensation there. Softening your belly, your back against the chair or free in the air. Do you notice any sensations there, like tightness in your lower back? Can you breathe into that? Feeling the weight of your bottom in your seat, gravity holding you down. However your legs are positioned, can you notice the top of your legs, your knees as they're bent, your calves, your ankles, and your feet. Just inviting a check-in in your own bodies, and then starting to feel the weight of your entire body wherever you are. Can you just breathe into your body? Release a little bit of pressure or tension, and then breathe it out. So in this space, I'd like to invite you, for the sake of our time today, to picture someone that you see often. Maybe it's someone you physically see these days or virtually. Someone that you see often that makes you really happy. Can you picture as many details as you can of this person? Picture them in your mind, strong, standing in front of you. Maybe they're even smiling at you. And if it's more than one person, let it be. Really get a strong picture. Have it stay strong in your mind. And imagine that this person is really happy. Happy to see you. Notice how that feels to have someone show up in your mind that makes you feel good. And I'd like to invite you to imagine something or someone else alongside the person that you originally came up with. Could be a pet, another person, a place, a thing, whatever it is. Picture that too. Picture them happy. Picture this place happy and beautiful. And how that makes you feel to focus on that. And then I'd like to invite you to do one more person or pet or place or memory, whatever. Picture that also. And imagine these things surrounding you like a circle. Get there. Circling you with love that you deserve and kindness and positivity. Notice how that feels for you. You're surrounded by love. And I'd like to invite you to shift your attention back to your breath for a few more breaths, just paying attention to the cold air going in your nostrils, a pause, and then warm air coming out as you breathe out, and then a pause for 3 breaths, and then I will ring the bell, and when the sound is gone, we can come back into the room. So maybe at this point, just take a stretch wherever you are. Get yourself back into a mode of awareness that we are shifting back into a new part of our time together. I'd like you, so I think I forgot to mention that every session I do, I like to have paper and pencil. So I'm just going to go ahead and tell you that if you continue to attend these sessions, which I would love, reflection is a really big piece. Self-reflection is a really big piece of building awareness and peace. And so I'd like you to just take a minute to like write down what came up for you during this time. Or you can think about it if you don't have paper, but just free write, word vomit on a paper. Like, was it hard? Was it easy? How did it feel to imagine people around you or things around you that fill you with joy? Um, just whatever, just so that you can kind of record that memory and that experience. So I'm gonna give you like a minute to do that. I'm gonna do it too, because I need to practice what I preach. It would help if I had a pen. So as you're kind of writing this stuff down, take about 10 or 15 more seconds to do that. And then if you're done, just read it back and just kind of think about where you were before this set and where you are now. So as you wrap up your reflection, you can just kind of like let that go for now. I'd like to go ahead and start my little talk. So this is how it's organized. I didn't get a chance to say this in the beginning, but typically what happens is we do a sit, and I'll do a talk. We'll do some practices on and off, and then we will have some takeaways for you and do a Q&A session. So I want to start with a quote, but first I want to tell you the context of this quote that I want to introduce our talk today with. This quote from one of my favorite books ever by Patricia Jennings called Mindfulness for Teachers. I don't know why it has a big line. That's probably one of my children. But you can tell I read it a lot because it's got lots of sticky notes in it. But I want to start with a quote from there. But first, I'll again tell you the context. So, and it's in reference to this quote that I'm about to share with you on the screen is in reference to challenges while teaching. So whether in this situation that you're in, that's teaching your own students or your own children, or maybe somebody else's children. I've done a few lessons with other kids online, and whatever it is, just kind of frame your understanding around it, or in your typical teaching experiences. So we'll go ahead and put that quote up. Erin's my screen sharer. So I'm going to read it to you, but it's there for you to see visually. So it says, positive emotions can help us cope with such challenges by lifting us out of negativity. They are buffers against the downward spirals that negative emotions suck us into, and the hallmark of resiliency, which is being able to bounce back so that you're better for the next moment. The hallmark of resiliency is the ability to harness positive emotions when we need to counter the effects of hardship. I just want you to think about that quote for a minute. And I'd like to invite you to write down anything that resonates with you there. Like, have you tried that at all? Like, how do you feel about this quote? And I'll be honest with you, when I first read it, I took it a little personal. So, if that's even your experience, like, don't worry about it. Just, we're here to observe ourselves in this time, not to get wrapped up and involved in it. So can you kind of come from a place of observation and reflection when thinking about this quote. So just take a minute to either write down or think about how this quote resonates with you. And if you ever want to share your like thoughts about it, like in a chat setting, like I will be kind of trying my best to look at the chat and like bring up things that people say to share out. I know some of you could look at it too, but I can name stuff. So if there's anything that anybody ever wants to say, when I invite a reflection in the chat, you're welcome to do that. And I think for me, the reason I kind of wanted to share this quote with you is because I like the idea of harnessing positive emotions, because I think that I think it's really challenging. Sometimes we have to to harness something, we actually have to intentionally pull that out. And so that's a little bit of what we're going to talk about today, and positive practices like the one we're going to talk about, which is looking for the good. I want to honor, though, that it's really important to talk about unpleasant emotions, to build awareness around unpleasant emotions. I personally feel like that's a really, really important thing to do, which is what our first session was about, the difficult emotions that come along with just general life, but also at times like this where stress is really strong and it's out of our control in a lot of ways. But we tend to talk a lot about unpleasant emotions and experiences and practices to kind of help with that, a lot more than we talk about the positive ones. And there are positive strategies to intervene here, but we're really good at feeling, focusing on, noticing, reacting to the unpleasant emotions. So it makes sense that we talk about that a lot. And actually our bodies are even equally as good at physically expressing unpleasant emotions over pleasant ones. Like if you think about it, your body's way, without verbal like interaction, your body's like main way of showing positive expressions is a smile. But unpleasant emotions show up in fists and red face and, like chest from heavy breathing or like pacing, or there's just so many things that our body and our mind do well in reference to unpleasant emotions. But, it's important to talk about the positive practices too. That's why we're focusing on that in this stress management series or session. And when we focus on the positive practices, a lot can happen for us. So, I'm bringing up the Mindfulness for Teachers book a lot, but Patricia Jennings is just such a powerful person, and I want to honor her voice in this work and how she carries me into a lot of what I say and do. But when we focus on positive practices like the one we're going to do today, looking for the good, a couple of things happen for us. There's research and science around the fact that when we focus on the positive, when we intentionally we willingly choose to focus on the positive, it can undo actually the physical effects that negative experiences have on our body. And what I mean by that is, if I'm having a really unpleasant experience trying to teach my children, for example, this morning, and I try to kind of, sometimes a breath can help. Sometimes, just walking away can help, but also sometimes focusing on a positive practice can help just slow my heart rate down, release my shoulders, take my tension and tightness away. It actually also helps us improve our visual attention. And what that means is like we start to notice things more. For example, I was sitting on my parents' front porch having a social distancing hello with them. And I noticed a tree like by their porch with little pink flowers on it. And I just kind of stopped and looked at it and appreciated. I was being grateful for the fact that, hey, spring is happening despite all this hard stuff that's going on. Like there's a lot of beauty, and this rain has been really hard, y'all, but look around us. Like it is colorful outside and it is a beautiful day and you're here with me. So thank you. But I just kind of paid attention to it, and I'm not saying it like changed me. What I'm telling you is it lightened me a little bit. I lightened my mood up a little bit. And I don't know, I think that what it does is like it helps us to notice, visually speaking, the things around us that we sometimes just kind of overlook and forget to look up. And the more we practice positivity, the more it shows up. There's a lot of science research around that people report, that they literature report, and people report these studies that they start to notice more positive things around them, the more they pay attention to it. And it also makes us more attentive and compassionate towards those around us and what they need. So there's a lot of benefits that come out of positive practices. So we're going to talk about looking for the good today. Gratitude. Now, this does not mean, again, I'm gonna recognize this first, that we have to ignore burdens or hardships or hassles or frustrations. That's not what the invitation is here. But the invitation is to find a counterbalance to all of that, to create a little more harmony for you. Because, a lot of people ask me this question of work-life balance. I personally the word balance doesn't resonate with me, because there is no such thing to me as a work-life balance when you're a teacher or an educator. You're just never able to shut it off. But what you can find is, a little bit of discipline and where your attention goes, but also harmony, and just trying to not get too bogged down by all the things that can really take over our mind and our bodies. And I want to tell you this, if you think about your normal day, like setting aside this experience we're having right now, most of your day is actually, for a lot of us, maybe not all of us, all the time, is neutral. Just want you to think about that for a minute. Like, most of our day is pretty neutral. Nothing really bad is happening. Nothing really good is happening. And in an entire day, it would be like neutral. Most days, neutral. Little bit of good, maybe a lot of good, a little bit of bad, sometimes a lot of bad, but most of it's neutral. The thing is, though, that whatever the unpleasant is that's going on in that day, that's what we pay the most attention to, because our brains are so good at that. I say this all the time for people who have been around me a lot and have listened to my sessions a lot. Our brains are wired to remember the bad over the good. It's called negativity bias. It does that to keep us safe. And it's okay, but the more we engage in that negativity bias, the better we get at it. So, I think that it's just interesting. I just think it's so interesting to me that most of our day is spent being neutral, but yet, the good and the bad have such a different ratio, especially, when we have unpleasant experiences. Even just one unpleasant experience in a day can just set us off. And during a time like this, just a neutral day is actually difficult to do, because there's an underlying current of the unknown, and it's not going away, and it's very much out of our control. And so it's very hard to it's even harder to be disciplined and focused and understanding of how to balance and create more harmony between the good and the bad. We have a lot to gain from a grateful perspective. Looking for the good has the power to heal us, to energize us, to give us hope. I'm not telling you that you have to feel grateful. I think that's a really big task to ask people, to feel grateful during this time in particular, but it is possible to be grateful. And there is a distinction of being grateful versus feeling grateful. We can be grateful. We can willingly choose to be grateful and look for the good around us, and find some amount of goodness, whether that's big or small. So, gratitude can look two different ways. It could be something within us. We can find that using self-compassion, contemplation practices, positive self-reflection. But it's also something that's outside ourselves. We can find it in other human beings, in our pets, in our experiences, entertainment. The list can go on. And to choose gratitude willingly takes self-discipline and practice. We ask our children to be good students, right? We ask them to be disciplined, to practice, to do the work. So I'm inviting you to be good students, not only for yourself, but for the people around you. This is a chance to embody the things that we ask our students to do more than ever at this time in our lives. And so I promise you, if you practice some of the ideas of gratitude, of looking for the good, it will help you. And so we don't have to like necessarily have reserve gratitude. I think this is something really important to talk about for all the big moments or the big stuff. So often when I ask people, and might even have happened to you when you were doing the sit earlier, that we kind of think a reserve gratitude for big things, like people in our life, home, having food, clothing. But the magic of gratitude, and where the research shows it's most impactful, is in the small things. So here's what I'm going to ask you to do. And let me give you an example. I'm going to give you some student examples, because these students are really good at looking for little things once you get them started. One kid told me that he was really grateful in middle school, that he was really grateful when he found a perfectly ripe avocado at the store. Another kid told me that she was really grateful when she draws a perfect circle. I mean, like, just things that you may overlook because they don't seem worth your energy and time. But it's really interesting when you start to kind of focus on the looking for the good wherever you can find it, what you can think of. So here's what I'd like everybody to do. I'd like everybody to write on a piece of paper 3 small things for which you are grateful. And here's what I'd like some of you to do. There's 22 of us on here, so there's about 20 of you in this call. Once you write down your small things, I would really appreciate it if you would put them in the chat, like at least one of them, because I want to share them out. Not everybody has to look at the chat, but I'm going to. Aw, sunshine, like today. That's true. Oh, a good cup of coffee. Yeah, especially these days, hot coffee. I have to microwave my coffee like 3 times in the morning. I'm not afraid to say it. So hot coffee, I agree with. A nice walk around the neighborhood, a baby smile, like River. I don't know if you guys can see him in here. He's in this call. Oh, birds chirping outside. I want to invite all of you in this thing. I'm going to tell you, this is a totally random thing that I probably shouldn't be telling you, because, I need to be quiet now. Do you know that there's this thing called the morning chorus or the dawn chorus? It is where male birds do their strongest singing when the sun is rising to call to the female birds. If you go out and listen, it's magical. A cold Pepsi, an empty sink. Amen. Amen, Jonna. An empty sink is a clean house. Yes, that's not really happening these days for me, but I agree. Diet Cokes with Sonic Ice, yoga, hearing my kids laugh while playing outside. Listen to all these things, friends. Starbucks chai tea. Oh, Starbucks. Doggy cuddles. Oh, look at all of you. Look, see all these little things. So I'm going to invite you to even get more specific about your pets. Wired coffee. Yeah. And specifically like types of coffee. Sure. Airlines that are operating so my husband can get to Denver so he can drive back with your son. Hey, that is about as detailed as it gets, and that is important. The more detailed you can get about gratitude around something that feels probably very difficult, that's really important. So thank you to all that shared. Those are great things for which to be grateful. I want to just say, like, even just kind of hearing you, and I hope that just writing down 3 good things kind of felt for a split second like you weren't focused on something else. That's my hope for you. And keep sending these little things in the chat box, because it's really making me happy. I want to talk to you about 3 takeaways. Okay, 3 things that you can do to continue to practice looking for the good. I'm going to say this one more time, and I will never stop saying it. Any practice that you insert for your mental health and well-being takes discipline. It takes self-discipline. It takes choice. Nobody can make you do this. You have got to willingly choose to embrace being grateful and doing these practices if you want to look for the good. So here are 3 things that you can try. 3 good things. I think this is a very common and popular teddy bears. Oh, I'm reading all the chats. I'm trying to do 2 things at once, and I always tell people that we're not good at that. So let me refocus. Don't stop though. Three good things, morning and or night. I'm just giving you a choice. So I said actions we can put into practice. You can do all three of these or one of these. It's up to you. But three good things, you can make a family activity. And actually, my family, in the essence of like trying to like practice what I preach, big pieces of paper. I'd get creative, but we have a little, we have time with our kids more than we do, or those of you that don't have kids, you can post them up, because here's what I'm going to tell you. It's self-discipline and it's a visual reminder. We all need visual reminders. We tell our kids they need visual reminders, so do we. So if you want to make a list, it's actually magical. If you like keep a running list of the three good things that you do every day, or three good things you notice, whether that's one time a day or two times a day, it is a magical thing. I cannot beg you all enough to try this, because it is so amazing. Aaron, your baby is quite popular on this call, so thank you for bringing him in. He's like the therapy dogs they bring into the hospitals. Okay, the other practice that I want to invite for you is appreciating others. I feel like this is something that a lot of people do well, but I want you to think about being genuine. It's speaking from the heart, which can require like vulnerability and recognizing emotions that kind of come up when you're being emotional towards someone. I'm not good at this. Erin, I was telling Erin this before, she was surprised, but it makes me uncomfortable to appreciate others or feel appreciation. And so I'm going to honor that to those of you who are like, no to that. No. But I will say, though, that after the fact, it feels really good. And I think more than ever now, we all need that, to have this ability to show people we appreciate them. Don't ever stop either of these things. These are the ways to balance and create harmony for you. And this can be done silently or publicly. You don't have to like let somebody know out loud. You can just let them know silently in your heart. And sometimes maybe we can feel it if it's strong enough. My last one is appreciate yourself. Be intentional and give yourself this gift of appreciating yourself. You deserve it. And let me tell you something, friends. I need everyone to hear me when I say this. Are we all listening? Like listening and focused? Because here's what I'm going to say to you. The only person who knows how much you have sacrificed, the only person who knows how much you have poured into your job in these last few weeks, in your family, in yourself, maybe not, into holding yourself accountable for this new learning, is you. You are the only person who knows that much. And so can you open yourself up to this level of self-appreciation? So here's the practice. I don't like to tell people what to do, but I'm telling you what to do. I always say everything's an invitation, but I'd really like to say this is like a requirement. I can't see if you're doing this or not. I'm just going to trust in good faith that you're doing this. So everyone, here's what I'd like you to do. On that piece of paper where you're writing stuff down, I'd like you to write this following thing down. I want you to write something down which in the last 24 hours or maybe longer that you have done of which you are proud of yourself. So the sentence will say like, I went on TV the other night and I was nervous as all get out. Like I felt like my heart was in my throat and I was really nervous and I didn't want to do it, but I did it because I really wanted to make people feel like they needed to hear what they deserve to hear. So that was mine. So I'm inviting you to write down one thing that you have done in the last 24 hours or so that you're proud of. I'll wait. I wish I could see everybody. I don't know how to change my screen. I'm on my husband's computer that, oh, there we go. All right. Now here's what I'd like you to do. I'm assuming everyone's done. Oh, some people are even holding up their papers to prove it to me. Thank you. I like that. I know I can't see a lot of people, but look, thank you. Oh, on phones. Okay, perfect. So here's what I'd like you to do now. I'd like you to change the I to you. Wherever you like the I state, the way you wrote the sentence is like, I did the following. So I want you to cross out on your sentence. You don't have to rewrite it, but cross out wherever it's speaking like from the first person and put it into the like you're talking to someone else. I can't remember what point of view that is. Lord, I need a lesson. I've got too much going on in my head. I'll remember it. Third person. Thank you. Whoops. I was a literacy coach too. That's embarrassing.
Hey, Jen, Judy just gave you a clue.
I know, a third person. Yeah, I saw that. Okay, now everybody, get your phones. Pick up your phones. This is probably the one time I'll tell you to pick up your phones. Okay, so I can't hear you, but here's what I want you to do. I want you to take your phone. Okay, don't do it yet. Don't take your phone. There's 2 steps. I want you to say, Siri, remind me in 24 hours. That's step 1. And then step 2 is she's going to say, what would you like me to remind you of? And you're going to read your sentence. No, don't do it yet. I'm going to remind you of the things. I need to tell you something. I forgot already that I did this 24 hours ago. And I have my reminder, and I read it right before I started this. But I won't even bring up the trauma of the first go around. But and I read it, and I wrote, "You are being so brave." And it was so cool to read that. And I literally had forgotten it. It was 24 hours ago. Okay, so step 1, say, Siri, remind me in 24 hours. Step 2, read your sentence, because you need to make it flow or she's going to interrupt you. Go. I'll wait. Oh, look, I see people talking. I'm so proud of you guys. Oh. I shouldn't be talking while you're talking to Siri. Good. Erin, thank you for your proof. Okay. I'd like you to do the following. When you get this in 24 hours, when you get this tomorrow, don't just dismiss it. No, 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 no. You're not going to do that. What you are going to do is you're going to let it sink in. You need to relax into the statement that you read. And you really need to pay attention to how you feel when you remind yourself of this. And if it feels vulnerable and uncomfortable or sheepish to kind of look at it, that's okay too, because that's just part of your experience. And maybe, just maybe, some of you will create another one for yourselves because you deserve this. Okay, I'm going to leave you with one last statement. Are you ready? I need you to think about this question. What do you value the most in regards to your mental health? I'm going to come back to that, circle back to that question in a second, because that is where most of your attention, or as much of your attention as you can muster, should go. So even if your brain's screaming at you to get caught up in the stress and the anxiety and the frustration, because it will, you will get deep into it. It will hold you down. It will weigh you down. The suffering will get bigger. There are emotions that actually activate our suffering. So with this will happen, our habits are really strong. Our habits of the mind are really strong, and they really like to focus on those unpleasant things. But I'm going to go back to my question. What do you value most in regards to your mental health? And if it's being well, then this is your chance to be well, even if just for a moment every day. And I'm being kind of serious about that because I'm so passionate about you all taking care of yourselves. And so I'm going to stop talking now and tell you thank you. Yeah, thank you for this. And Erin's gonna say something really quick, and then we're gonna open it up for Q&A. So if some of you want to peace out at this, let's let Erin tell you something first. And then if you want to peace out at this juncture, that's fine. But this is the time where we're gonna open up people to be able to ask questions, unmute you, ask questions, and then I'm here to answer any questions that you would like to know more about. Because I mean, we could talk for an hour about gratitude. So this is just a quick little quickie. All right, Erin.
Yeah, guys, so I have to tell you thank you again for joining us today, for being vulnerable, putting yourself out there, sharing the awesome things on chat for all of us to see, and just taking the time to give yourself this gift of slowing down and really thinking about some of the good things. I have to tell you, whenever everyone was putting the stuff on the chat, like, I'm not an emotional person. I'm an emotional person, but I don't cry unless I'm frustrated. But this actually brought me to tears. It was so moving that my eyes started to get all teary and things like that, because you guys were being vulnerable and putting it out there, and it was a lot of goodness to come into our day. I want to invite you to our next session that we'll be having on Monday, March 30th at 3 o'clock. It'll be another live session called Developing Self-Compassion. And of course, it'll be with Jen. What I'd like you to do, the Zoom ID that's on your screen right there, obviously that's not going to be the meeting anymore. I'm going to go back and put some protection on it so that people can't jump in that aren't supposed to. But what I would like you to do is, if you'll take just a second, write down the RSVP, the tiny URL, so that you can sign in. I will send out this invitation to you guys via email also, but if you want to go ahead and RSVP for it right now, that'd be great. So the RSVP is https://tinyurl.com/r3287669. So I want to tell you thank you again, guys. It's going to take about maybe less than 24 hours for our tech guy to splice together a couple of pieces of our recording and then add it to our Hamilton County YouTube channel. But we'll also add it to that Whole Teacher, Well Teacher Canvas course, which you guys have been invited to as well. If you join the Canvas course, everything's going to be located just on that first home screen, so you won't have to navigate a whole lot to get there. And I'll always send out the invitation to join that and the live hyperlink for just accessing the videos. I want to tell you thank you again. We're going to stop.
Wait, Erin, can we, I want us to take 3 breaths before some people peace out.
Oh, yes. I can't believe we forgot to do that. I'm going to stop sharing my screen here now, bring it back to Jen, turn it back over to her.
Yeah, so before everybody decides to stay or go, I just want you to just, if you feel comfortable, to close your eyes for a second or gaze down and just kind of feel yourself in your chair. Just check in with where you are. Let's just take 3 deep breaths. So that means we're breathing all the way in and all the way out our mouths. Just let it go before you move on to whatever comes next in your life. Slow down. Feel your shoulders release every time you breathe. Just feel the way your body feels right now before you move on. Maybe you feel quieter. I hope it carries you into the rest of the day. And thank you so much for being here. And yeah, like Erin said, we're going to open it up to the Q&A session. So Erin, I'm wondering if people who are still on, if they can they raise their hand? Can we do that? You know how, if you go to the participants section, you can actually raise your hand on there. Like I can raise my hand and it'll show my hand up, and then Erin can unmute you, or you can unmute your, I'll call your name, or Erin can call your name and we'll unmute you so that you can ask questions. Anybody have any questions or curiosities or want to know more, or just any thoughts around anything that resonated with you in this time, just go ahead and put your hand up. If you don't understand what I'm saying, let me know, because you just have to go to participants and put your hand.
So there actually was a question that was shared privately on chat that it's not about this practice, but it is about the experience that we had before. So Jen, is it okay that we ask that right now, or should we wait until the end?
No, nobody's, we don't have
So
hands up
a teacher said, I have a Zoom scheduled with parents this evening, and I'm worried that that's going to happen to me. And I think any of you that I can see your faces are probably going, yeah, me too. So when Grant called me privately in between, he basically said, you need to make sure that you always enable the password. So what happened was with me trying to enable anyone to join, even if they didn't have the invitation itself, to make it open to anyone in Hamilton County, I presumed a lot of positive intent by doing that, and didn't anticipate that someone would use it inappropriately. So it was not password protected. So from here on out, lesson learned, our Zoom meetings will be password protected. So I recommend that if you use Zoom, when you're setting up the meeting, just make sure that that password is enabled, and then share the invitation with them specifically. Yeah. So that's the answer to that question. Now, if we want to think for just a moment, any other questions or even thoughts that you want to share with everybody? I'll be looking for hands.
Or they can just unmute themselves.
Yeah, you can just unmute yourself as well. I don't actually know how to make my hand raise.
Go to participants. You're a participant, I think.
So I have a quick question. Our principal's having us do an online course. It's free right now. It's called Creating Trauma-Informed Resilient Schools. And this kind of goes along with one of the modules I was listening to last night. Do you recommend doing like guided meditation with kids on a regular basis?
I think that I have a complicated response to that. I would not give a quick yes to that, because I think in my experience, I mean, yes, you can. I think it just, I think the way that it looks, I think meditation or guided practices, when I work with kids, mindfulness guided practices, but I think it depends on your audience as to what is included in that with kids and to how long. I will tell you that in my experience of working with kids with high trauma, and I don't know what your circumstances are in your job, the breathing and getting still is very difficult for kids with a lot of trauma. And so there are other resources from which you can pull, like physical movement, or yoga is always great for that. But there's a lot of grounding techniques you can do in place of the breath as a guided practice. There's like tapping, there's lots of different ways to tap, but like just touching like certain acupressure points on your body is really one of the most beneficial things that I've ever done with kids. And actually I do it myself when I'm so stressed out, and I cannot tell you how crazy it works. But yeah, I think it depends on what your interpretation of meditation is and who your audience is. So maybe that would be a conversation that you and I could have separately, but I would say if you have a high trauma class, I would be very careful to do stillness and focusing on the breath to start off. That would be, I can share more about that if we want me to, but that would be my response to that. Does that help? Do you have any more questions about that?
No, I'm kind of new at delving into this, and I remember like in middle school I had a teacher that kind of took us through guided imagery, and it was very calming. And I'm just trying to think of what are some things that I can help center my kids that will kind of as a quick but effective method of kind of helping them to calm and base themselves.
You have do you work with high trauma students?
Some, yes.
Okay. Well, if the majority of your class is not like a high trauma, if you've got like a few sprinkled in there, we all have some level of trauma. Let me just say that. We all have some level of trauma, some higher than others. So I think that there's that to consider as well. So for what that's worth. But guided imagery is so great. Like visualization, guided imagery, like I'm walking through a forest, I see, that's a great tool for, again, it requires stillness. So you may get some backlash of that, or some silliness or, attention seeking behaviors. But as the teacher of that, part of your responsibility is to maintain, not taking it personal, staying the course, because we don't want it to be seen as you have to be this way or you're not doing it right. We want to invite safety first. Like, we want kids to feel safe if we want them to be vulnerable. And that's number one. But I would say the tapping would be a great way for you to do, like, if you're going to do a Zoom class on this, and you can look more into it. It's called EFT tapping. And I'm telling you, the kids that I work with, that I teach that to, it's typically one of their favorite things that we do. And it's just a great way to ground everybody, to get everybody synchronized in their energy, and it's movement. So I love it. I teach it a lot in classes. Anybody else have a question? You're welcome to unmute yourself if you have anything you want to say. I'll just give you a minute or two. I don't mind silence. Go ahead, Judy. Unmute yourself.
I can't find it.
There it goes.
My little screen is up here. I can't see it.
I
It's
got
way
you
at the top.
unmuted, Judy.
Okay, hi. What's your baby's name?
It's River. This is River.
Oh, that's the one. Oh, he's just adorable. I just want to hug him, okay? Hug.
Oh,
I have a little. I have a grandson. We do virtual hugs with. But the lady, was it Kate Campbell that was on? Are you still
Yes.
on, Kate? So Jennifer helped our school go through mindfulness practices at DuPont Elementary last year, all the way through for a year, and now we're mentoring teachers that are doing it in their classrooms at DuPont that had not done it before. And we're at a pretty, Jen knows we have a lot of trauma kids in our classrooms everywhere in this school. Not as bad as some other schools, I know that. But putting forth these practices and being intentional with them has really helped. The part that is hard is being intentional. So I have to actually write it in my lesson plans. I have to actually say and write it on the board, this is what we're doing, and we do it. Because without that, it doesn't mean anything to the kids. It becomes meaningless. So it has to be important to the teacher, and I believe it has to be a practice that's intentional. So I have been intentional with my kindergarten class that I'm working with, mentoring. I've been teaching 4th grade this year. Our kids have been through it a whole year. Most of our kids have had this for a whole year, and now this would have been the 2nd full year. And they know how to calm themselves down. They know that they know what to do. It's giving them these tools, whether they use them or not. But so many of them have told us that they use this at home. They use it at school. They use it ball fields. They use it when they're, just calming that high anger down. So I can tell you that from experience, this really works, but you have to be intentional with it. And, our kindergarten babies are now getting it at DuPont, and they'll know it. And by the time they get to 5th grade, I hope it's an intentional practice. It's like with anything spiritual that you do, whether you're Christian or not, whether you read your Bible or not, if you want that practice, you have to be intentional with it. So that spiritual part of meditation and mindfulness are practices you have to practice. They become intentional when you practice them. To put it as a tool, without a doubt, with high trauma kids, it works. So yes, and thank you, Jennifer, for all she's done. She's amazing, what she's done for this county, and use her and her resources. And all of us that have gone through her classes can say nothing but exceptional things about this. So just wanted to let her know about that.
Thank you for your
That's it.
appreciation.
Yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, Judy.
I can't get this off, so Erin, you'll have to. I can't see the top button.
You can't mute herself.
You're muted now.
Anyone else? Bye. All right. Well, I think that we have given enough time for anybody who wanted to ask questions to ask them. And so we'll kind of conclude our time together. And thank you, those of you who are still remaining. If you ever have any questions or want to know more about the practice of gratitude, looking for the good or anything, just always feel free to let Erin know, or Erin, I feel like maybe I should put my email on here from now on. I don't know. Just, we need to talk about that probably.
Let's do that. That's a great idea.
Okay. All right, friends.
I'll make sure that they have it.
Go back to your life, and thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. And also thank you there was someone that said thank you for persevering through that. Thank you guys for persevering through it too. Woo-hoo-hoo! Bye guys.